Hi, I'm Margaret Lewin and welcome to Margaret Lewin Quilting. Today we're going to learn about the bullion knot or the bullion loop, whichever way you want to put it. It's a real simple stitch. It's an extremely simple stitch, and it really only has to do with your placement and how you decide to use it. So this is the bullion, and this is actually the Bullion Rose because I turned it into a rose. But at the same time, let me find another one. Let me open this one for you. This is the Bullion Rose again, as is this one's another Bullion Rose. And I guess that's all I have for the Bullion Rose. But then you also on here have the bullion loop. Same stitch, it's just depending upon where you're picking it up and putting it back down again. This is another one that's a bullion loop. So the very first, and here's the Bullion Rose again. So the very first thing I'm going to do is just show you how to do the bullion stitch. So I've got my thread, and I am using Razzle, which is a really nice silky and very, very shiny thread. You can see I've made a couple of bullion roses. So I'm just going to start my thread the way I always do, which is simply to go to the back side, pick up a little bit of the fabric, draw it through, stop just before I've pulled it all the way, and I just make 2 stitches across. So you can see my stitch comes through. Now I'm going across. I'm just going to do 2 stitches, and that will hold everything in place for us. All right. I'm going to take it back to the front side. I'm going to bring my needle up, and then depending upon how long I want to make it, I'm going to take, see this area from here to when I put the needle down, that's how long my stitch is going to be. So I'm going to take it up. You see I've pulled it right back up again now. Obviously it's away from me. I'm going to pick up my thread that last came out of the fabric. So where the top of my needle is. I'm going to wrap my thread. I'm going to do it 14 times. So you do it clockwise. There's 1, 2. And you can see I pull it up and then I use my thumb to kind of flatten it out and bring it down again. Now I lost count. Alright, there's my stitches. So now I'm going to take my left thumb, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to lay it over the top of my threads. And what that does is just simply secure them in place. Make sure my tail's through. I'm going to push this through, and then I'm pressing down on the needle against my finger, and that's kind of holding those threads a little bit, and then I'm just going to pull my needle through. Then what I do is I pick it up and just pull it, and what happens is those threads just very nicely lay down. So there is your bullion. Now what we're going to do next is make a bullion loop, which is what this one's trying to do to me, and I'm not ready for that one yet. And I'll show you how we do that one next. Take my thread back to the back side of my piece again. There's my bullion. Now I'm going to make a bullion loop. So I'm going to come up, pull my thread to the front side. I'm going to turn my work only because it works better for me to go from right to left. And I'm going to do the same amount of wraps, but what I'm going to do is shorten my length of my stitch. And how I do that is, see how far my needle's going down there? There's my stitch coming up. Take my needle down, then back up next to where my first stitch was coming up. Push my needle through, and now I'm going to wrap. just kind of scrunch these down a little bit. And to tighten it, if you've got it really loose, hold on to the end of your thread and hold on to the needle. Then take your other finger and just kind of mess with it a little bit. You can rotate it, you can make it looser, you can make it tighter just by taking your index finger and your thumb and rotating the threads on the needle. So now I'm going to pull it through, same way I did before. I'm going to use my thumb to push those threads up tight. I'm going to take my needle back to the back of my work. And look what happens. Because I've made my stitches so close and I put so many wraps on the needle, I gotta find where I'm coming up here. I now have created a loop. Alright? Alright, so now let's do a Bullion Rose. This loop right here is the same as what I did right here. Okay? And the only thing I did differently was I inserted a bead in there. So go, next time you're at your local big box store, look for some beads and just add a few beads. Alright, so now I'm going to make my Bullion Rose. I'm going to bring my thread up, and I have just carried it across the back. Normally, if this was one of my working pieces, I would probably stop, cut my threads, and carry on. But this is my practice piece. I always like to sit and do the stitches a couple of times before I really start working at them, just to see what they're going to look like and just to play with them. So now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to do a small space, because what I'm looking to do is make these 2 small inside rose petals. Take my needle down into my work and then back up again. This time I'm only going to wrap it 6 times. Right? Push my threads down, hold them securely. Remember, I'm pressing with my thumb against the threads, which is against my finger on the other side. And I'm just going to pull it. And there is my very first stitch. I'm going to go down to the back of my work, and I'm going to come up right beside that. So I'll come up right there. Pull my thread through. Now see, that secures that. I'm going to rotate my work. Nope, actually I needed to leave it the way I was, sorry. And I'm going to take my needle down again, right next to this one. And then I'm going to bring it up. Wrap it 6 more times. I like the variegation between the red and the pink. I think that's going to be cool. Alright, so there's my first 2. I'm going to take my needle down again to the back of my work. Now what I want to do is I want to take a look at this, and I want to break it into thirds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, alright, and then I'll probably go to here, and then I'll go from here over to here. Somehow I need to get this into thirds, because to make it look like a real rose, starting with that third is really pretty good. So anyhow, so now you're up. Take a look at these stitches, and what I'm doing in my mind is kind of breaking it into thirds. So here's 1, we're going to go a little bit farther. There's 1, and then 2, and then 3. Okay, so now I think I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to go bring it back up to the front side of my work. I'll bring my needle up. Now I am using a number 1 Milliner's needle. Bring it around. I'm going to turn my work a little bit. Now, what I'm going to do is take my thread and get that out of the way. I'm going to take my needle down. Now remember, I'm talking in thirds here. So I'll take my needle down, let's say, there's the bottom of my work. I'm going to say right about there. I have taken it out a little bit because I want to tuck my next bullion in between the center and this new piece. And I'll show you that when I get to it. I'm going to take it up. Now you're going to say, you're really going pretty straight across. Is it going to work? Yep, it'll work. And I'll show you what it will do. So I'm going to take this up. This time I'm going to wrap it 14 to 16 times, probably right around the 14. Okay, so there's 14. I may do 2 more. 15, we'll do 16 on this one, okay? Holding it, again, just like I've been doing with my thumb, my finger underneath. I'm going to push this through, kind of just pull it, right? Now you can see what happens. I'm kind of going over to here. Well, what I want to do is I want to bring it back here. I'm just going to grab it, and I'm going to push it right down with my thumb. Now you may have to play with your threads a little bit, but I'll tell you, these are easily manipulated, which makes it really nice. Alright, so now look at what my thread looks like. See, I just kind of wrap it around and there it goes. So now I'm going to take my needle back down again. Okay. And I'm going to pull it tight. See how it just kind of lays? I'm going to bring it up again, right, kind of tucked inside of here. Because you know how roses petals kind of fit inside one another? That's what I'm going to make it do. I'm going to pull that tight. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to okay, so now here we go again. Remember, I'm still working with those thirds. So now this time I'm going to go to, let's see, it's about right here. That one looks good to me. I'm going to bring my needle back up right next to where I came up before. And I'm going to wrap again. And I'm going to do 16 times again. Okay. Hold it down again. And then just pull it through. Now, if you need to, don't hesitate to kind of try to manipulate that thread on your own, because that's just fine. Then I'm going to go back down. one more stitch, and this stitch I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to take it down over here, because remember, I want to kind of cross over those stitches and take it back through. Okay, same thing. Pulling it through. Probably going to unthread my needle this time though. I'm going to pull it over to the side I want it to be at. Come on. And then take my needle right back down again. And there is the start of my Bullion Rose. So that's what you do, and then you just keep adding to it to make it look more and more like a rose. Now on this one right here, what I'll end up doing next is I'll do one from here probably over to here, then I'll do one from here to here, here to here, and what that will do is balance out this side that has a few more. So what you're doing is you do your two centers, and then you just are doing them to go around it to just give the rose a little bit more of some dimension. This one I think is my favorite one so far, and this one might end up okay in the end. This one I'm not happy with at all. So don't forget, do a practice piece first before you start working on it, just to get the feel of it. So that's how you do a Bullion Rose. If you have any questions or comments, please do leave them below. And if you like this video and want to see more of this type, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so. And thank you so much for joining me today. Bye, everybody.